Player of the Year in the NEC, Defensive Player of the Year. She does everything on both ends of the floor for Mount St. Mary's and is a player that is unselfish, sets the tone with her hard work, and defensively can guard 1 through 5.
Very versatile player. A transfer from George Washington University in Washington, D.C. And right away, Maryland gives up the basketball as we take a look at today's Capital One starting lineups. Now, for Mount St. Mary's, Razee, Harrison, and Taylor all on NEC all-conference teams. And Maria Marcasano, the Coach of the Year in the league, just her 4th year there. As you take a look at the Butler grad, and has done a good job to get this program back on track as they swept both the regular season, and NEC tournament championships.
Maryland with a couple turnovers to start. They're going to pick up in their zone pressure defensively. And this is a Mount St. Mary's offense that likes to really open the floor. They want to play 5 out, but they have a post player, number 34, with the ball right now, Rebecca Lee, who has been huge for this team on the interior at 6'2".
As we take a look now at today's Capital One starting lineups for the University of Maryland, all 5 of them averaging in double figures, along with player off the bench. Katie Benson, the grad transfer from Harvard, is the best three-point shooter in the country. And Brenda Fries has won ESPNW's National Coach of the Year award. Maryland lost so much from last year's team. They had to bring in a lot of new talent. They got some transfers in, and Brenda and her staff have blended them very well indeed.
Just an incredible job by Brenda Fries and her staff. I mean, with those departures, them going out and snagging Katie Benson and Chloe Bibby and really retooling their offense and how they play, honestly, on both ends of the floor to suit these new players in a COVID season. Brenda's been fantastic.
Amy Collins delivering at the free throw line, one of the transfers we referenced.
And 1-2-2 3-quarter court here for Maryland, and Mount St. Mary's does a nice job of breaking the press, and once again they get the ball to the middle of the floor.
Diamond Miller from the outside really has diversified her game, gotten her assist to turnover ratio down, and she is second in scoring on this team.
And that's what's impressed me about Maryland in recent weeks and the way they've played, as they're spreading the floor at all 5 spots with both Mimi Collins and Chloe Bibby really shooting the 3 well.
Bibby thought she got a clean block, but instead it's her first foul, and here's our first visit with Holly Rowe.
Well, guys, if Maryland reminds you of something, let me say it's for very good reason. The last time they had all 5 starters in double figures is the year they won the national championship. And this year they actually have 6 players that are averaging double figures per game. They're a young team. They're very reminiscent of that team with Christy Tolliver, Marissa Coleman, Langhorne, all of those great players. And Brenda Fries says she feels it a little bit too. She actually took this young team up to look at the national championship trophy before they came here to San Antonio, just to remind them we've done it before with very young players. We have all the pieces to do it again.
That team in 2006 beating Duke in overtime. And one thing that Coach Fries reminded us, that team, their assist to turnover ratio actually was in the negatives. They turned it over more than they assisted, whereas this Maryland team is one of the best in the nation at that. Diamond Miller now at the free throw line.
And what makes that most impressive, Pam, is the pace that they play at. You'll talk to coaches and they'll say, you know, we turn the ball over a lot, but we play fast. Well, Maryland plays very fast, and yet they are not turning the ball over at a high rate. Instead, it's their assists, it's their playmaking ability. It just can't say enough, especially with all the new pieces of how the chemistry has come together.
And Coach Fries has talked about how unselfish they are. They like to pile up the assists. Some good defense in the lane that time. It's turned over by Rebecca Lee, who is a 6'2 senior from Severn, Maryland. Mount St. Mary's, by the way, is in Emmitsburg, which is in northern Maryland, about 15 minutes south of Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. Very, very small school. Only about 2,200 students go to the Mount, as opposed to over 40,000 for Maryland. Outside shot is off the mark, and they're going to get Collins for holding Lee.
And I like the way Rebecca Lee is working on the inside. Maryland showing her a lot of respect with the double team on the interior, but they will put up a ton of threes. And Pam, to your point, you see that enrollment, 2,200. I thought Wake Forest was small. We've got about 5,000 undergrad, but Mount St. Mary's got us beat.
You see the oldest private Catholic college in the United States, and we asked Coach Marcasano what's the most fun thing to do there, and she said, go watch the Mount play basketball.
I'm enjoying the Mount play basketball so far, forcing Maryland to turn the ball over. It is difficult to get in front of Ashley Owusu in transition. She's so big, strong, and crafty. And yet the rotation back defensively by Agantovic was sensational there.
Turnover now, Miller gets it up, and this is another thing that Maryland does. They're so dangerous in transition. Even Bibby, who is one of their tallest players, able to run the floor.
I mean, Maryland's defense to offense happens in the blink of an eye. They don't have to take a lot of bounces. They can move the ball off of the pass, and there you see the versatility of Chloe Bibby. I mean, her toughness, I remember when she was at Mississippi State, first identifying her. And it just, what stood out to me is she was relentless on both ends of the floor, and then suffered an injury, decided to transfer, and fits in so well with everything that Maryland does.
Yeah, Chloe Bibby from a very small town in Australia, played 3 years at Mississippi State. Didn't hurt her ACL there, and was a welcome addition to this Maryland team that lost, among others, Jakira Austin, who went down to Ole Miss and had a spectacular year.
I'll say Mary's has done a nice job of moving the basketball and spacing the floor against that zone pressure. That's the one thing about that 1-2-2 three-quarter court, is if you move the ball, you can get open threes on the backside. And Mount St. Mary's has the three-point shooters to spread the floor.
How about Rebecca Lee with the nice block on Diamond Miller? Get the ball back for the Mountaineers. Brzee, who we talked about, the player of the year in the league, and Diamond Miller called for the foul.
And that is what you love about the play of Kendall Brzee, is that she is going to be assertive. 5'10", again, can guard all 5 positions on the floor. Plays extremely hard, just tough, a transfer from GW, but she has been a welcome addition to the Mountaineers.
Coach Marcasano had so much to say as Miller heads to the bench after the foul, just about how valuable Brzee has been. It's great when your best player is also your hardest worker, very unselfish, and she delivered at the line. How about this? Maryland only up by 1 over the Mount. Benson gets it over to Stiles. Brenda Freeze going to that deep bench. Faith Masonis also in the game. And Bibby and Owusu, the only starters in right now for Maryland. And Owusu draws the foul. Officials calling this a little tight.
Your biggest challenge defensively when you're playing Maryland is to get in front of their offense, to get ahead of them. And Mount St. Mary's has done a nice job of that so far.
Benson, nice pass into Owusu, he backs away. See, with a good defense, but Stiles gives him an extra look, and Katie Benson has almost unlimited range.
Too much time and too much space. And in particular, off an offensive rebound, Katie Benson, you better find her behind the arc. And this is a Mount St. Mary's team that is negative in their rebound margin, so they must get on the glass against the Terps on both ends of the floor.
Maryland can chew you alive when they get offensive rebounds. There's
an offensive rebound.
Yep, and they deliver with Michaela Harrison.
Michaela Harrison.
Up by 1.
Nice take by Owusu to the rim. She's missed a couple that she will normally make there. But Michaela Harrison comes into this game having only hit 4 of her last 22 attempts from three-point line, but she is looking really confident early in this one.
It's third in the NEC this year in threes per game, including that slump. Owusu went for the steal, couldn't get it. Brazee with the floater, and another offensive board. The Mountaineers could not get the follow, however. Sonis fouled on the move. Maryland only up by 3 early.
Gotta love the pace of this game for both teams. The three-point shot falling. Vincent can't give her a look because she will knock it down. And Brazee got a little 3 off there, but on the offensive rebound, you must spot Harrison. Gets it to go.
We know you've got your hands full at home.
I'm building a spaceship.
So Instacart is here to help make shopping a little easier. With retail partners like Walmart, you can get all you need from household items to fresh produce, and a shopper will safely deliver them contact-free in as little as 2 hours. Because between teaching, cooking, and parenting, you could use one less job to do. Go to instacart.com or download the app to save $10 on your order from Walmart using the code SAVINGS2021.
The Hemisphere region right behind South Carolina, only leading Mount St. Mary's by 3. Take a look at the bracket. Alabama has beaten North Carolina, so the winner of this game gets Bama. And Texas, Bradley, UCLA, Wyoming will play later on. These are all first-round matchups in this tournament. Mount St. Mary's at school about 45 minutes away from College Park, where the University of Maryland is. And they went all the way to Texas to play them. And boy, LaChina Robinson, so far so good. They don't seem intimidated at all.
Yeah, there are a few things that Mount St. Mary's is doing well. Number one is they're getting back in transition defense. They're playing one play ahead of Maryland and getting their shoulders in front of the ball handler. They've done a nice job on the glass despite being undersized at various positions, and they've had good balance. They've gotten the ball into Lee, and they've also got some three-point shooting.
And let's go down to Holly Rowe.
Well, when the players from the Mount came out onto the court, they had these shooting shirts on that said, any court, any time. I was like, ooh, right when they walked out of the tunnel, I thought, these young ladies are not intimidated. They're not scared of anybody, and they're playing like that right now. They are taking it to Maryland. They're feisty, and they are unintimidated. Any court, any time. They told me right from the start.
And that's half the battle, right, Holly? I mean, when you're playing the Maryland Terrapins, they're coming in hot, and you want to make your mark. It's all about the mindset. You know, I mean, are you afraid to play one of the higher seeds, or are you buckled up, got your shoes laced up, and ready to go? And so far, the Mountaineers look ready for the challenge.
Brazee unable to do anything with that possession as it goes over to Maryland. And for those of you who were watching Wright State, Arkansas, LaChina, what an upset. And you were very impressed, right, with Wright State, so maybe you're one of the few people not very surprised that the 13 seed has taken out the 4 seed Razorbacks.
Well, I would not go that far, but I did like what I saw early from Wright State. Yeah, no, I don't think my bracket would back that up, so I'm going to be honest on this one. But Katrina Merriweather has done an outstanding job at Wright State, and watching them in those early moments, it was really about their energy, their togetherness, their tenacity. They were talking. They just looked like they were ready for a big takedown. And how about no more Chelsea Dungy for us in the NCAA tournament? One of the prolific scorers in college women's basketball this year.
Sonis able to get in to get the basket for Maryland. Yeah, that's one of the disappointing things when you lose a stars, dynamic scorers like her. Arkansas held just in the 60s as far as scoring today. So congratulations to Wright State as they move on. Cam Ward, LaChina Robinson, and Holly Rowe joining you this afternoon from the Alamo Dome. Mount St. Mary's gets the 3 in the corner.
Maryland, and they're switching man-to-man. Great patience by the Mountaineers and great skip pass for the open three. Again, this is an offense for Mount St. Mary's that wants to spread the floor. Rebecca Lee is the only true center on this team. They want to get up the three-point shot.
All four NIT quarterfinals are coming to ESPN networks on Thursday, beginning with Mississippi State Richmond at 6 Eastern on ESPN2 and the ESPN app. Visit NCAA.com, the home for all 90 NCAA championships. Last foul was on Arne Taylor, who hit the three on the other end of the floor. Mimi Collins heads back to the line for Maryland. Boy, Mimi Collins has been on a tear. In her last 7 games, she has scored in double figures in all 7 and has shot the ball 62% from the floor during that stretch.
Yeah, Mimi Collins was kind of thrusted into the urgent position as Angel Reese went down with injury. And you know, the aspect of Collins' game that to me has been most impressive as of late, turnover there by Mount St. Mary's, but it's her three-point shot. I mean, she was pulling up in transition in the Big Ten tournament with a lot of comfort. So that's essentially your 5 player who can stretch the floor, and she's just tough.
Mimi Collins, I think, only had 10 threes on the season, and then in that Iowa game, she hit 3 of them. She was 3 of 6. So now she's got 13 on the year. Maryland able to put on their pressure now after the made basket by Miller. Long three, just off the front of the rim, as that was put up by Bridget Burkhead, one of their best players off the bench, who is one of the best three-point shooters in the history of Mount St. Mary's.
And right away, you see one of the more dangerous aspects of Maryland's offense, in that Angel Reese can grab the ball off of the rim on a rebound and get the transition game going at 6'3", and that's a huge foul here for Mount St. Mary's. Rebecca Lee, again, that true center, their only true post player in their size, has 2 fouls.
So she takes a seat. Diamond Miller at the line. First team all Big Ten this year, doubled both her points and her rebound numbers. Maryland now on a 6-0 run to take the 9-point lead.
What Maryland's done a better job of in recent possessions is taking away the paint, whether that's touches in the post or off of the drive. I feel like Mount St. Mary's was getting a piece every time down the floor.
Z with the miss, good box out. Faith Massonis had a really good Big Ten tournament, particularly against Iowa in the final, giving Maryland quality minutes off the bench. Diamond Miller, one of the more fiery players on this Maryland team. Angel Reese had to kind of calm her down on the sidelines during that Big Ten final. She was getting all fired up. Another 3 attempt, and that one rims out. Rebound taken down by Collins, and Maryland, as usual, running. Miller, unselfish. Owusu, too strong, but she got her own miss and got fouled on the follow.
I mean, we think about the transition game of Maryland, starting with Ashley Owusu, and she is a bully in the open court. But she ran the wing to perfection there and did her part in the transition. It doesn't matter where players are, who gets the rebound. Everyone can take it up the floor. And Diamond Miller, in her last few games, is seeing the floor better than she has throughout the season. In her passing game, her assist numbers tell the story.
Agantovich called for her first personal. Here's Owusu at the line. Ashley, unanimous first team all Big Ten, the co-most outstanding player of the Big Ten tournament that Maryland won yet again. Maryland has now scored the last 8 points of this game. Kayla Harrison driving on Massonis. And that 3 drops in for Arne Taylor, her second three of the game. Taylor has come back from a couple of devastating knee injuries, but just that quickly, Maryland counters with Stiles.
Yeah, no communication there by Mount St. Mary's in transition, and you're right about Taylor. She is probably their more confident player in terms of the belief she has in her offense, and you wonder even how it exists after some really devastating injuries, 3 ACLs and a meniscus, and she's still at it.
Also had to deal with the bout with mono earlier in her career. Wusu, Stiles blew her would-be assist, but Maryland hangs on to the basketball. Maryland up by 10, and already the Terps have been to the free throw line 13 times, and they've made 12 of them. Collins, short, Bibby, long.
Without Rebecca Lee, the guards for Mount St. Mary's have to get on the glass. They don't have their big. She's in foul trouble, so everyone's got to chip in.
Three ball, part of their arsenal. This is a Mount St. Mary's team that led the Northeast Conference in just about every offensive statistical category. And there you see Rebecca Lee turning into a cheerleader, sitting there with her 2 personals. Mount have hit 4 threes, but are only 1 of 6 from 2-point range. That one is wide left as the first quarter comes to a close. Maryland needed a nice run at the end to get a bit of separation. They lead by 10 after 1 quarter.
New Dove Men deodorant is different. It has 48-hour protection and a plant-based moisturizer that cares for your skin. Odor protection that works. New Dove Men Plant-Based Care.
The NCAA Women's Championship is presented by Capital One. What's in your wallet? And in part by AT&T 5G.
That is a look at the last time Mount St. Mary's made it to the NCAA tournament. That was back in 1995. Also went there in 1994. And now with Coach of the Year, Maria Marchesano, in charge, they are back as the NEC champions. And she is trying to build this program back up.
And I really love Coach Marchesano's story. Played at Butler, didn't really think she wanted to coach, and kind of fell into it and fell in love with it. And if you look at her career and how it's progressed, she hasn't stayed anywhere very long. Turnover there by Mount St. Mary. She's kind of moved around, but she said she knew she wanted to be a head coach and has kind of chased the opportunities to do that. And just really enjoyed our conversation with her. And her team has come out strong against number 2 Maryland.
Let's go down to Holly Rowe after the bucket by Taylor.
Well, I'm obsessed with Coach Marchesano because she was playing basketball at Butler as a student athlete. She'd always wanted to play 2 sports, softball and basketball, but during that time they just didn't do it in Division I. So somebody got hurt, the shortstop got hurt on the softball team at Butler, and she just went and filled in for 2 months. It brought back her love of softball, so when she went overseas to play basketball in Italy, she actually ended up playing for the national team on the Italian national team and signed a professional contract to play both basketball and softball in Italy. She's not just a good coach, she's a total baller.
Yeah, she absolutely is. Gotta love it. 2 of your favorite sports, Holly, softball and basketball. I always hate when you have to share Holly during softball season.
Coach Marchesano, one of her first coaching jobs was she was both the basketball and the softball coach among her stops before she got to Mount St. Mary's. Owusu able to get that basket for Maryland.
Yeah, was an associate head coach at IUPUI, was a head coach at Urbana, a Division II school.
Team only trailing mighty Maryland now by 10 points.
Well, Maryland has extended their defense out to the 3-point line. They're not allowing Mount St. Mary's to get very many looks on the inside, and they need a touch in the paint in order to set up the 3. And without Lee, that's proved to be very challenging.
There's a nice defensive play on the other end by Miller. Bibby in trouble with the turn, and man got fouled. Or excuse me, Mimi Collins got fouled.
I was a little concerned for the Mountaineers with the pace of this game. I mean, Maryland scoring 28 points in the first quarter. No one in the country right now can keep up with the way they're scoring the #1 offense. So I think they're going to have to find a pace kind of in between that's comfortable for them. Definitely try to take some time off the clock and not allow Maryland to hog it all on the offensive end on the floor.
Coming up next, Division I Men's Basketball Championship. We want to remind you that the Sweet 16 begins Saturday on CBS and TBS, or you can stream games on the March Madness Live app from anywhere. You can always go to ncaa.com for information. Arne Taylor sits down now with 3 personal fouls, and they have a couple of other players, Nagatovic and Lee, with a couple apiece. And this is a team that does not go very deep on their bench.
That changes the way that Mount St. Mary's plays with those players in foul trouble. Number one, they're not as big. They don't have the aggressiveness of Arne Taylor, who has played really well towards the end of the regular season. It's 3 for 3 from the field in this game. And so they're definitely a lot younger with this team on the court and just not as experienced and not as confident.
Coach Marcasano told us if she had her druthers, she would play a 5 out all the time and just recruit 5 guards. They like to spread the floor. They like to shoot their threes. Miller with another rebound for Maryland.
But they've got to figure out how to get Brazee active on the offensive end as Diamond Miller beautifully running the floor. And nice finish, but Kendall Brazee is 0 for 4, the NEC Player of the Year. Mount St. Mary's has got to get her going. But in the meantime, it is all Maryland Terrapins on the offensive end. They move those.
And there you see the Alamo region, and yes, that's correct. Wright State has knocked off Arkansas. And Wright State is moving on. Chelsea Dungy and the Razorbacks going home after just 1 game.
Well, everyone said they wanted to see more upsets, as we had chalk yesterday. Well, Rutgers has already gone down. Now Arkansas is out, but going back to that Stanford team, beautiful pass. Oh, travel there, but good execution out of the timeout by Mount St. Mary's. But going back to Stanford, I mean, what a 3-point clinic by the Cardinal. 15 for 33. They had 15 threes. 7 different players on the roster hit a 3, and they shot it at 46% from behind the line. Just incredible.
Diamond Miller able to slice her way in for another 2 points for Maryland.
Not having Lee as a shot blocker or a threat at the rim has really hurt Mount St. Mary's. They haven't really contested many shots off of the drive by Maryland.
Second chance, one of the few times they've had that opportunity. Collins can't hold on to it. Good hustle there by Isabella Hunt. Freshman from Johnstown, Pennsylvania, getting some playing time, and it looks like we got a turned ankle.
Yeah, Jada Lee, who will play some backup point guard. It's a little hobbled.
Jada Lee, who was a freshman from Pittsburgh, went to Carleton High School. Former University of Maryland great Bonnie Rimkus went there back when she was freshman of the year when they were still in the ACC. And there you see Jada being helped off the floor. Joe Franklin, the athletic trainer for Mount St. Mary's. She's okay. You heard everybody say, walk it off, right? People ever say that to you?
You know, Pam, I only missed 1 practice. Never missed a game. Missed 1 practice in my career in injury. You know what I did? I pulled a muscle in my neck shooting a free throw. It was the weakest injury. Oh, God. It's embarrassing. I mean, I would love to say I had an ankle sprain or something that's a little bit more substantial. Pulled a muscle in my neck shooting a free throw. Something I've done a million times.
How do you do that? I don't even know if that's physically possible. I didn't know the neck was an important component in free throw shooting.
It is physically possible, and it has happened. It's on the books.
Mount St. Mary's has not scored now in almost 3.5 minutes. They've missed 6 straight shots. And Rebecca Lee rolling the dice. They got Lee back in there. They need her.
You got to. You got to. Right now, Maryland is rolling and is taking over this game. You got to put Lee back in. Because you need her on the glass. You need her to help contest shots. And there she is right away making an impact.
Absolutely. Z just won't go down. Wusu can't lose Diamond Miller.
Maryland's so fast. Getting down the court, defense to offense. And their lack of a true big helps that. I mean, they're mobile. And they can move.
Wusu lost it, regained it in the air, and made the shot.
But see, that play right there is why we call Owusu a bully. Do you see how she held the defense off on her right side? Like, used her body, her physical strength to get that line to the rim?
And calling her a bully is definitely a compliment.
It's strength, it's power, it's explosiveness. There's not another point guard in the country like her.
And she certainly doesn't have the typical point guard build, and she uses that strength. And started since coming on campus when she was a freshman last year, was the Big Ten Freshman of the Year.
Watch what she does right here. She initiated the physical contact right there in that transition. I mean, she was the one. She saw the closest defender and used her body to shield her off.
It almost looked like Tomasetti bounced off of her a little bit, but Wusu off to a terrific start. Maryland has now scored the last 14 points of this game.
You could hear Coach Marcasano saying, move the ball, move bodies. So she wants more movement in their offense, but they have got to get Brzee involved.
3 seconds violation, so they turn it over. And you talk about Brzee, she leads her team in just about every category, the player of the year in the conference. She is 0 of 6 from the floor, has 4 points all from the line. And Michaela Harrison, their second leading scorer, only has 3 points, 1 of 6 from the floor, all of them threes. Owusu using her body beautifully on the low block.
Maryland can invert their offense, put your point guard on the block, and because of that build, those wide shoulders and the finesse of Ashley Owusu, she can get you a bucket in the blocks.
And some tough matchups. Owusu a little bit too physical that time, picks up the foul.
I mean, this is just smooth by Ashley Owusu. She's 6 foot tall, so most point guards are going to be smaller than her defensively, and just turns even with a double team attempt and kisses it off the glass.
That was Jessica Tomasetti again, a freshman from North Potomac, Maryland, who was on the NEC all-rookie team, but Owusu with at least a 5-inch height advantage. Inside 4 minutes to go in the second quarter. First round action in the Hemisphere region. Winner gets Alabama in a couple of days. There's Brzee, still can't get a bucket. Benzin slicing down the line. Benzin hit a 3 earlier. That's her first 2.
Look at how Benzin competes on the defensive end. Not in this contest, but in most games, she's the smallest player on the floor.
Yep.
But she's going to play harder than you on defense, and she's going to get to the 50-50 possessions. The first option in Maryland's offense is to get all the way to the rim if you can. Even though Benzin is a three-point shooter, uses a little inside-out cone drill on the break and gets to the rack.
And Coach Freeze told us that she loves her aggressiveness, says that she kind of sets the tone for all the loose ball, all the tough plays, and that it's contagious for the rest of the team. Molly Rowe has more.
Well, you know I'm going to be obsessed with Benzin because she's the littlest player out here, and so I just always respect the small women because I have been one my whole life. But she's unbelievable. She was a 3-time first-team All-Ivy League player at Harvard. She decided she wanted to go somewhere else as a grad transfer. She thought she was going to go down to Texas, but then Karen Alston got let go and her contract was not renewed, so she kind of reopened her commitment, and here she is. It's really a cool story that she's not supposed to be on this team and not expected to be onto this team, and here she is as a starter and a defensive stopper, and she is still the smallest player on this court, even against the Mount today.
Yeah, that's a terrific story to get Benz in there. She's also a pretty good ball handler as well. And she is doing something that could be really, really special. She is hitting over 50% from 3 and just under 50% from 2 and 90% from the line. How about that? A possibility of a 50-50-90 season, which would be tremendous.
I mean, that would be remarkable. And to Holly's point, you know, the little ones are feisty. Holly's feisty.
Oh, yeah.
Benson's feisty. And, you know, she was pretty much recruited over Zoom. And Brenda Fries convinced her to come. And same with Bibby, just the timing of everything, the way things have happened over the last year. But she's a major pickup.
And it worked out perfectly because Taylor Mikesell, who had been Maryland's three-point specialist, transferred to Oregon. Benson stepped in and has been better at shooting the 3, even than Mikesell. Inside Lee, she's gutty too, isn't she?
She has no cartilage in either one of her knees. I mean, a player that has fought, she has to, it takes her an hour just to get ready for games because she's got to ice and then she's got to get the heat. I mean, she goes through a whole exercise. Played soccer growing up and just had a lot of knee issues, but look at how she's fighting.
Yes, she never gives up. Bibby gets the kind roll to get the basket in, and Lee's bucket on the other end ended an 18-0 Maryland run.
Maryland has been able to switch at all 5 positions and stay in front of Mount St. Mary's.
There's good defense there by Stiles, the transfer from Cal Berkeley. The grad transfer coming up on the AT&T 5G in the studio halftime report. Arkansas, yes, upset by Wright State. Another upset, Rutgers is gone, and the Tide had a great day from Jordan Lewis. Alabama will play the winner of this game in a couple of days. Maria, Andy, and Rebecca standing by in the studio.
And we're just getting started. Doesn't that get you excited? We've already got a couple upsets. I mean, you do feel bad for the team. It was tough seeing Chelsea Dungy emotional at the end of that Arkansas loss, but that's what March is about, right? The range of emotions from the teams that win to those that lose, the heartbreakers, the careers that possibly ending, though this year it's very unique, and we don't know whose career is really going to end because the NCAA has granted an extra year of eligibility to all college basketball players.
And it's been exciting already on this day after the higher seeds went 16-0 yesterday. Mimi Collins has become a really good outside shooter for Maryland.
And Pam, you wonder how the way a player loses in the NCAA tournament might impact their decision on whether they come back, right? So if you're a Chelsea Dungy and you wanted to make your mark in the NCAA tournament, might you return to do that? Or are you going to go to the WNBA?
Stiles with the breakaway layup. Shot clock is off now for Mount St. Mary's. They have 2 field goals and 8 turnovers in this second quarter, which has been a game changer for Maryland. More misses. At one point, 7 minutes into this game, Maryland only led by 3 points. But then a couple of scoring droughts by Mount St. Mary's. Maryland pulls away. They lead it 53-22. Coming up, the AT&T 5G in the studio with Maria, Andy, and Rebecca. Welcome back to the NCAA Women's Championship presented by Capital One. Ashley Owusu and Maryland, the number 2 seed in the Hemisphere region, off to a healthy 53-22 lead at the half over Mount St. Mary's. The NEC champs making their first appearance since 1995.
Mine again. Not a lot of experience in March. It took a couple of minutes for Maryland to settle into this game, but they look very comfortable and have taken control.
Yeah, as you see, just with the two of them, they have outscored Mount St. Mary's 25-22, and Maryland really lighting it up with their 2-point shooting. Meanwhile, Mount St. Mary's went almost 7.5 minutes without a point, and they did not get any field goals from Kendall Brzee, who is the player of the year in their conference and also their leading scorer. Lori Bibby with the miss. And this game will get Alabama in a couple of days. See the huge size advantage with Bibby out there on the perimeter against Harrison.
And the collapse again defensively onto Lee, and she loses it.
Rebecca Lee, number 34 in blue. Bibby blows right by her to get the basket, but Lee, as you mentioned in the first half, playing really with just 2 really sore knees, undersized, got into foul trouble, but gutting it out.
This is the kind of afternoon it's been for Kendall Brzee, as she has taken some time to get off of the floor, but I like the 5-out look for Maryland, and this is where they can be special, is when all 5 players are on the perimeter, because they're all a threat from three-point land, and you've got to get your center out to try to guard on the three-point line.
You see Kendall showing some of the frustration. We certainly hope she's okay. Joe Franklin goes over to take a look, and you see her numbers for the season, but in the first half she missed all 7 shots.
Well executed play there by Maryland. The up screen by Diamond Miller to get Mimi Collins on the block, and she scores it.
Mimi Collins becoming more and more of a threat for Maryland offensively. She is the 4th Terp in double figures this afternoon. They have 6 who average double figures on the season. The only team in Division I women's basketball with 6.
Look at Ashley Owusu in transition, always in control, smooth, just behind the back, but maintaining her aggressiveness all at the same time. I heard Rebecca Lobo say she's one of her favorite players to watch. She is one of mine too.
Oh, Bibby with the block and then was able to keep it in play. Here's Owusu, 2-on-1, gives it up to Diamond Miller. That is textbook Maryland basketball for 2021.
The Terps pouring it on in their NCAA tournament debut. A little defense by Bibby, the tap to Benzin, and they are rolling. Owusu, Diamond Miller, the sophomores, Terps rolling.
Who is USAA made for? It's made for him, a veteran who honorably served. And it's made for her. She's serving now. We also made USAA for military spouses and their kids. Become a member. Get an insurance quote today.
The leading scorer for Mount St. Mary's, Kendall Brzee, is back out on the court, but she is banged up. You can see on her left knee, she's got a big pad. They've stopped him bleeding there. But more importantly, her right shooting hand has been wrapped pretty heavily around that index finger area. Guys, she hasn't scored since early in the first half, just 4 points. They have got to get her going, but she is banged up.
And she's tough as nails, Holly. So despite all the challenges, as Mount St. Mary's gets a 3 coming out of the break, but despite those challenges, she's going to stay out on the court. I mean, this is a young woman who comes from a athletic and athlete-driven family. Both of her parents were college athletes. Her brother is a college football player, I believe, and her younger sister showing she's got some promise. I mean, you know how those competitive athletic households are. You know, everyone wants to be dialed in at all times, and that's kind of her background and has driven her throughout her career.
Her brother not only plays college football, he's at Clemson, Brian. They're pretty good with China, you college football fanatic.
You know, I'm crazy about college football.
Here's Benson now. Good job by Mount St. Mary's to get back and stop the break. That's one of the things that Brenda Fries has really emphasized with her team. She says they love getting numbers in transition. Collins misses, but you saw Bibby stick with it. She's going to be frustrated because she couldn't get the field goal, but she will go to the free throw line.
And you see the frustration also for the Mountaineers to be right there at the bucket and can't keep Bibby off of the glass. It's been a challenge. But the Terps, boy, they can pour it on. And that's one of their staples, right? I mean, for years, they've been a great rebounding team. That is one thing that Brenda Fries does very well, puts an emphasis on the glass.
Arne Taylor goes to the bench now with 4 personal fouls for the Mount. Bibby gets 1 out of 2 at the line.
The Mountaineers love the drive and kick game. Maryland has taken away the three-point looks, but the bury on the switch by Lee catches Benson. Mouse in the house.
Rebecca Lee now with 6 points for the Mount. Ivan Miller goes behind her back, lost it momentarily. Styles. Second chance, couldn't get it, falls to the floor, no whistle. And now one of the few chances that Mount has taken to run. Trail 3, just off the rim. Benson smartly lets it go. Coming up next on ESPN, the NCAA Women's Championship. First round continues with some great matchups. Michigan State, Iowa State, followed by Marist, Louisville. We will have that game tonight, 8 Eastern on ESPN. And then cap your evening off with Wyoming, UCLA. All games available on the ESPN app. And UCLA, I want to see a very good basketball player. They've got one, Michaela Onyenwere.
Yes, fantastic player for UCLA. Still a lot of scorers left in the NCAA Women's Tournament, though we lost Arella Garantes and Chelsea Dungy today, and a couple to watch in that matchup between Michigan State and Iowa State. Nia Clouden for Susie Merchant's team is an offensive problem. I mean, she controls pace, can't speed her up, just real smooth from outside, can get to the rim. And then Ashley Jones. Pam, you and I got a chance to watch Jones play for Iowa State this year in the Big 12, and very underrated. Gets to the free throw line, can get a double-double on any given night, and it's just as tough as they come as far as her low post game.
And Jones is a treat to watch. And we have an Angel Reese sighting. She just hit 2 free throws from Maryland. The freshman from Baltimore did not play at all in the first half.
Yeah, surprised to not see her in the first half. I mean, she has come back from her injury. I thought played really solid basketball in the Big Ten tournament. And she is the piece to this Maryland offense that could give them another dimension in this tournament because she's such a big, strong presence down low and gives them size and is just a really dynamic player as she's still coming into her own.
Maryland head coach Brenda Fries, pictured here, calls Angel Reese the X Factor. And this is a young lady who got hurt just a few games in. I believe her 4th game in, fractured her foot, missed 3 months of practice and games, and has come back and really given Maryland a nice boost as they roll to what has now become a 13-game winning streak.
And again, they could use that depth in their front line. I mean, they've got some options in the guard spots, but could use a little bit more padding and versatility, diversity, I guess I should say, in their front line.
Uzi just picked up her 3rd foul, her 2nd one in just the last several seconds. Maryland's only been called for 1 foul since the first quarter when they were whistled for 4. And there you take a look. Not only are they winning games during this stretch, 13 in a row, but winning them by an average of almost 27 points per game. They were really impressive in that Big Ten championship game. Coach Maria Marcasano commented on it for Mount St. Mary's. They're playing a team like Iowa, who also is a high-scoring team, and Maryland they got into triple digits against them in a championship game, where typically those tend to be a little bit more of grinders.
You see there on that possession what Angel Reese's size and ability could do. She got down the floor and she looked like a grown woman amongst girls, just reaching above all the defenders. Just couldn't get it to go.
Reese, a 6'3" freshman from Baltimore. They tried to go into her. Good save, and then got fouled on her follow attempt. Time out on the floor. Maryland in control in the first round.
Whose house? Whose house? What'd you think when you walked into the stadium for the first time?
It was absolutely breathtaking. This is the best in the world. Congratulations, LA. You're going to love it as soon as you get to see it.
Hand off left side. Henderson slips a tackle. Touchdown, LA. Intercepted in the end zone. He's sacked again.
The NCAA Women's Championship, presented by Capital One, is brought to you by Liberty Mutual Insurance. Only pay for what you need.
Welcome back to the Alamo Dome, where the Maryland Terrapins are literally running away with this game. It's been their transition, the strength and power, the flow game of Ashley Owusu. Benzin, little inside-out action. Great ball handling to get to the rack, and then pushing the ball to the floor off of the pass. Owusu again drawing the defender. Diamond Miller is always going to be one of the first players down the floor, and the Terps getting the possessions up, getting the pace up in this game, and Mount St. Mary's just can't keep up.
And the numbers on the left side of your screen bear that out. 23-0 in fast break points, feasting off turnovers, shooting them up in the paint as well. Rebecca Lee and Arne Taylor have combined to hit 6 of their 8 shots for the Mountaineers. The rest of the team just 3 of 34. Z 0 for 7, their leading scorer during the regular season, player of the year, defensive player of the year in the NEC. Really having a tough time of it against this Maryland squad, who some people believe should have gotten a #1 seed. They're a #2.
I mean, they look like a #1 every time I've called their game. I mean, it's just tough to say who they should have replaced, right? That's the next conversation, because we've watched Stanford. Obviously, Connecticut's had a good season. Who's my other #1? I'm forgetting. South Carolina. But I think
Texas A&M was #1 for a while before they fell relatively early in the Southeastern Conference and fell to a 2.
NC State.
Yep.
Was that 4th #1 seed.
Again, the best chance to win the title, according to ESPN's BPI, at Connecticut on top. Stanford, the #1 overall seed, according to the committee. And you see Maryland as a 2 seed and Baylor as a 2 seed, ahead of both South Carolina and NC State, the other #1s.
Well, when you look at the strength of schedule for Maryland, you know, that definitely stands out amongst all of the 1s and 2s that could be in the discussion. I think the way they play down the stretch of the regular season, which that's usually something the committee takes into consideration. Angel Reese, another lob pass. I mean, they're just lobbing it right up to her, and she's catching it amongst all the smaller defenders hanging out here. I mean, this is just a perfect pass and good soft hands on the catch. And Reese is finding an angle to get it up there, but you know, we're not going to go back to the seeding discussion at this point, Pam, but I do think that it makes Maryland even more dangerous as a 2 seed, and what we've seen and what they're capable of in their scoring ability.
South Carolina, the #1 seed in their region. Alabama is next for the winner of this game, and we'll whistle away from the rim. Sia Kozlova is in, #14, a freshman from Moscow, Russia. Does not get normally a lot of playing time, just her 20th game of, or excuse me, 19th game of the season. Maryland with a very healthy lead. Good hustle, boy, she's tough. Rebecca Lee just took it away.
It's a mindset. I mean, she just has a never give up. And we mentioned her not having any cartilage in her knees, and so physically she maybe can't do the things she'd want to do, but it's the effort, and Burkhead gets it to go there.
Yeah, Burkhead also has a bad hand. She broke her hand. It's her offhand, her left hand, as Owusu was able to get inside. So Burkhead, among the Mount players who were banged up. I mentioned that Brzee, next to Holly Rowe's report, has got some tape now on her shooting hand. Still has not hit a shot. Number 3.
Trying to guard Ashley Owusu is like playing pinball. Like you're just bouncing off, you know? I mean, it's just, nothing phases her. Nothing knocks her off of her lane. She's just always very under control. I mean, her upper body strength, wow.
Has a very even personality as well. Didn't have that as a freshman last year when she started.
How about Angel Reese guarding out on the perimeter? Keeping the ball handler from dribble penetrating. I mean, she must have had 8 inches height advantage out on the three-point line, trying to contain Agantovic.
It's another shot clock violation for Coach Acasano's team. Inside. Minute 40 now to go in the third quarter. Maryland taking control thanks to a 25-4 second quarter. Working hard, but Angel Reese, actor, battling. You're going to go down fighting. It's really been the perseverance of Rebecca Lee and Arnay Taylor to continue to play through all the injuries they've had that have gotten this NCAA appearance for Mount St. Mary's. Tune in Friday when the Men's Hockey Championship gets underway in Bridgeport, Connecticut at 1 Eastern on ESPN and the ESPN app. Wisconsin takes on Bemidji State in the regional semis. Visit NCAA.com, the home for all 90 NCAA championships. John Butchergrass hosting the selection show yesterday. Our buddy up in Bristol. So ice hockey getting underway now in the NCAA. And a lot of, all those championships that had to be taken from the fall into the spring. A lot going on in a lot of different sports. Very busy spring in college athletics.
I mean, could you imagine if all of this was happening and everyone was full capacity with fans and everything? I mean, the venues on and around campus from a sports standpoint would be just insane.
Yeah. Hockey championships would be played around this time of year, but there are several other sports that were not played in the fall that have been bumped to the spring. Personal foul on Rebecca Lee. That is her 4th. One of the toughest players that we have seen. She's also a terrific student, an economics major and a business minor. That's no fooling around, LaChina.
Yeah, those were majors I wasn't interested in.
No. And Reese delivers at the line. And some good news, Jada Lee, the freshman from Pittsburgh who twisted her ankle back in the first half, has come back in for the first time. One of the 4 true freshmen on this squad. Right away, Lucy went right after her.
Hate to see players go down. We've had a couple in the NCAA tournament, some injuries that could become a factor as it goes on, and those are the kind of things that coaches have to adjust to. You know, you have an ankle turn and you're missing a key player for a few minutes, or you've got someone that's not going to be available next game. I mean, that's what makes the madness of March. And that's the unfortunate thing about it in terms of injuries, but it means someone else has got to step up.
Reese.
That could...
Maryland, one of the teams that has a lot of depth. Oh, just the seas parted as Owusu came right down the lane.
Nothing has been able to stop or limit Ashley Owusu. Power to the rim, sees part, Ashley scores.
Does scrubbing grease feel like a workout? Scrub less with Dawn Ultra. Its superior grease cleaning formula gets to work faster, making easy work of tough messes. Dawn is a go-to grease cleaner throughout the kitchen too. Keep a bottle in the laundry room to pre-treat greasy stains. And keep Dawn in the garage to lift grease off car rims. It's even gentle enough to clean wildlife affected by oil. Dawn's grease cleaning power takes care of tough grease wherever it shows up. Scrub less, save more with Dawn.
Thank you, Maria and Coach Landers. Couple of upsets today. The one they just referenced, Wright State beating Arkansas. BYU, an 11 seed, took out number 6 seed Rutgers. There will be no upset here. Maryland in control since really the second quarter over Mount St. Mary's. The next stop will be to take on Alabama. Benson, nice look. Underneath the Zoe Young. And then Benson, this is a 3-on nobody break. Bibby with the finish.
Maryland already with 77 points. And their defense leading to some offense. And I think they don't get enough credit for what they do on the defensive end as well, Pam. You know, we talk so much about their scoring, but with the length of Diamond Miller, the hustle of Katie Benson, they can be very disruptive.
Bucket there for Hunt. Isabella Hunt, a freshman from Johnstown, Pennsylvania. And Chris, Brenda Fries actually talked about defense, that she went down and spent some time with the head coach. Was down at Texas Tech to try to get some new defensive principles. And Brenda Fries, with now in her 19th season, trying to get back to her 4th Final Four and possibly win a national championship as we head down to Holly Rowe.
Well, guys, a really cool story that Brenda Fries shared with us. Her dad, her quote is, "My dad is my heart." Her father is 89 years old, Bill, and I hope you're watching, Bill. Hello. She shared a really special story with us after the Big Ten championship. I don't know if you saw the emotional video of her taking the net that they had cut down, going over and handing it to her father and just breaking down in tears in a very emotional moment. Her father is going through cancer right now, and after that game and seeing that story on TV, the Minnesota Lynx coach, Cheryl Reeve, reached out to her and said, "Hey, we're sponsored by Mayo. I have connections there." And so they were able to fast-track him and get him an appointment at the Mayo Clinic there in Minnesota. So hoping that there's some good news there for the Fries family. But Brenda Fries just, I mean, she teared up and started crying on our Zoom call with her. She is just so close to her dad, loves him so very much, and we just want him to know that we're thinking of him as well.
Absolutely well said, Holly. Bill and his wife Donna were at the Big Ten tournament in Indianapolis last week, and Coach Fries on the air that LaChina and I called that game, and she was, I mean, I've known her for quite a while, and that's by far the most emotional I've ever seen her. You certainly can understand it. Her dad's certainly one of her best friends, and the whole family going through a lot right now.
Yeah, she literally said, as Mimi Collins gets a score there, "My dad is my heart." And I mentioned during the Big Ten championship, one of my first questions to Brenda Fries when I first started covering Maryland was, "How did you get into basketball? Tell me about your legacy." And she would always start with her father in the free throw shooting contest at the Elks Club. And that, her earliest memories of basketball were very connected to her father. Thinking about Girl Dad, how much more we're talking about that since the passing of Kobe Bryant. But just really tough, as he was not given a great prognosis, but a hand from Cheryl Reeve. I mean, friend to a friend, the basketball community, all really in support right now of Brenda Free's family.
The Lexus UX and UX F Sport with the best-in-class turning radius and our most advanced standard safety system ever. Also available in hybrid all-wheel drive. Experience amazing at your Lexus dealer.
The NCAA Women's Championship is presented by Capital One. What's in your wallet?
San Antonio, the site of the entire NCAA women's basketball tournament, and we want a little history here for you. Mount St. Mary's, a school in Emmitsburg, Maryland. Our former colleague at ESPN, Fred Carter, played 8 years in the NBA, was a head coach at the Mount in the early 80s, and not only was he the first black student athlete, he was the first black student when he was recruited by the legendary Jim Phelan when he went to the Mount in 1965. That was his rookie year there. And he tells the story, Fred did, about being in the car when Jim Phelan drove him from Philadelphia down to the Mount, and he asked the coach, how many black kids go to Mount St. Mary's? And Jim Phelan said, look in the mirror, you'll be the first. So he was the very first and was a terrific athlete there, averaged a double-double, one of 3 players to have their jersey retired, and a former women's basketball coach of the Mount. And I hope Fred is watching back home in Philadelphia. He was always a joy to work with at ESPN.
Just a great story, and as ESPN continues to celebrate Black history always, the number of stories we've heard this year around, the first black athlete on campus, the first black women's basketball player. I mean, just remembering those moments and the people that have blazed the trail for athletics that we see today in terms of diversity, of color, of culture. It's been a great celebration and a great reminder that we sometimes have to reach back into history and acknowledge those that have made a way for all of the things we're privileged to enjoy, especially around sport.
Wusu knocks down the 2 there, and Fred had talked in previous years about really having trouble, especially going on the road. And again, this was the 1960s, and teammates of his would walk out of restaurants that wouldn't serve Fred, and having to take a lot of the brunt of the taunts and the abuse that you would imagine back in that era. And Fred was the very first at Mount St. Mary's, again a school in Emmitsburg, Maryland. About 2,200 students. And there's a 3 dialed up from the outside. Ashley Owusu. Look at it, that's Ashley Owusu, excited, frustrated. I mean, that's just the Owusu face. She just goes out there, plays basketball, and is so steady for Maryland.
Never changes her expression. And just has the poise, the calm. I mean, even as a freshman to come into the situation she did, I thought she established herself well on what was a more veteran team and wasn't afraid to take the reins and make some things happen.
Big Ten Freshman of the Year last year. Agantovich with the bucket. Timeout in San Antonio.
Arby's, 2 for $6 every day. The biggest fish sandwich of your life. Twice. 2 of those things for just $6. Arby's, we have the meats.
Let's take a look at today's Capital One rewarding performance. We were just talking about her. We'll talk about her some more. It's Ashley Owusu of Maryland.
Oh, yeah, Ashley Owusu, the dynamic point guard who makes this engine offense of Maryland go. She can get to the rim. She can post up and score in the low block in transition. I mean, you just bounce off of her in terms of that strength, the quickness, the mobility, and she's growing as a leader as well in her sophomore season. And here she is just in her first NCAA tournament.
And for more, let's go down to the court and Holly Rowe.
Well, you know who else is talking about Ashley Owusu? Megan Rapinoe. She caught her eye watching her play in the Big Ten tournament. Megan said, I've seen a couple of clips of her, so she tweeted her out and was like, I see you, Owusu. And of course, Ashley was so excited. She sent back a photo of her doing the famous Rapinoe pose with her arms in the air. So they got a little friendship going back and forth on social media. But I checked in with Megan Rapinoe about her today, and I said, why do you like Owusu? What draws your eye to her? And she said, I think she's a baller. She said, I think she could really be something special if she locks in and does what she can do. She said, but what do I know? You know, she's the world's best soccer player, but she has now become a basketball expert as well because, of course, Sue Bird has made her one. So, but I love it. She's shouting out all these young ladies who are doing something special.
I've seen some footage of Megan Rapinoe in the gym, and she's got some form to her. I mean, she's got some natural basketball abilities. I mean, she could pull it off. She could fool someone on a good day into thinking she might have been a hooper at some point. But the footwork, you know what's interesting, and Holly, you know this as well as anyone, so many of the great WNBA players started in soccer. I know Candace Parker did. I know Diana Taurasi did. And, you know, what that footwork in soccer did for their basketball foundation. And those are just two.
Angel Reese going to put her contact lens right back in. I bet you Rapinoe is a really good rebounder because that's what she did a lot, especially during the lockdown when Sue Bird could not get the real, quote-unquote, real workouts in gyms. She was out there rebounding when Sue was shooting. But, yeah, it's been neat because Rapinoe has tweeted about other women's basketball teams in the tournament, including Tennessee.
And it evolves the topic of conversation always.
Long three, a little bit too strong. Angel Reese able to bat it to herself and then hits the deck. She's all right. Coming up next on ESPN2, the Women's Championship first round continues. Take a look at these matchups. For the first time we'll see Texas A&M, the 2 seed in this tournament, taking on Troy. Then it's Bradley and Texas. And cap your night off on ESPN2 with South Dakota, Oregon. All games also available on the ESPN app. Maryland doubling up. Mount St. Mary's up by 44. Reese, some defense. Maryland hangs on to the basketball. Mount St. Mary's again. A frustrating day. Kendall Brazee coming in as the conference player of the year. 0 for 10 from the floor. Does have 5 points, but it was a special year for the Mountaineers, getting to the tournament for the first time since 1995. And when we talked to head coach Maria Marcassano the other day, she said that her team was grateful to be in the big dance. She said, if this was a non-COVID year, we'd be taking a 45-minute bus trip over to College Park. She said, heck, we got a free trip to Texas.
Yeah.
No, but,
I mean,
yeah.
They got to travel and got to play on a neutral court and showed some fight. I mean, if not for the foul trouble early, that kind of threw them off a little bit. As you mentioned, Pam, they've got a younger team once they go to their bench. But, you know, this is an opportunity to get out and show what you can do. And I feel like Mount St. Mary's represented well. The score doesn't really tell the story because this team never quit.
And once Lee got into foul trouble, that really hurt them. Again, outscored 25-4 in the second quarter after they were only down by 3, 7 minutes into the game. But Maryland was too deep. Such a talented team. And the number 2 seed is going to play Alabama next.
What a matchup that will be. Christy Curry's team obviously moving on today after taking out the North Carolina Tar Heels. I know our producer Chris Damiani had that game, and you know it's an Alabama team that can definitely pressure you and can score the basketball. And the thing about the NCAA tournament is really, it goes back to your scouting ability, right? And your team picking up another team's trends and preparing for whoever's next after just working hard to learn one team, and you've got a day to figure out how to scheme for the next opponent. And I know the coaches are looking ahead, but the players, I mean, you've got to change gears pretty quickly.
So Alabama's next for Maryland. Let's go back to Holly.
Well, guys, we actually just did that Alabama game, and I'm telling you what, Jordan Lewis was something else. Their feisty little point guard that's getting her MBA. As you see that nice three-point shot there in the bench react. But she was 2 assists away from a triple-double. She scored more points, over 32 points, more than any other player so far in the NCAA tournament. So look out. Alabama is hot coming into this matchup with Maryland tomorrow.
And Holly with the WNBA
2 days.
Yeah, they do have 1 day. But thank goodness. But Jasmine Walker, I mean, as a possible WNBA draftee, you know, another player that's really talented, long, versatile, can play inside, outside, and so she's going to be a tough matchup as well.
That game will be coming up in a couple of days. Hemisphere region, a foul sending Lee to the line, Jada Lee. Diamond Miller, Maryland starters getting quite a bit of rest this afternoon after they pulled away in the second quarter. Maryland on the doorstep of winning its 14th straight game. Just 2 losses on the season. They lost to Missouri State very early in the year and then fell to Ohio State during the regular season and have not lost since. That 3 almost went down for Zoe Young. Stiles cleans up on the glass.
I think Stiles could be a big part of this run for Maryland. You know, I mean, Brenda Freeds' ability to go to the pine. Sonis we talked about as well. You know, someone who can come into the game, play multiple positions, and give you a little bit of grit that you need to keep the momentum going. I mean, their bench is going to be a really big part of what happens with this young Maryland team.
27 bench points today for Maryland. As you take a look at the calendar, the Sweet 16 coming your way, starting on Saturday. And then the Elite 8 capped off with the Final Four Championship Sunday on April 4th with the game at 6 Eastern on ESPN. Coverage beginning at 5 Eastern down in San Antonio, where LaChina Robinson is going to be heading relatively soon.
Yeah, I'll be going down to join Holly down in San Antonio. We'll be covering the regional, both of us as sideline reporters. Well, Holly is a sideline. I'm more like a side, you know, I haven't gotten the reporter part quite yet, you know. Yeah. My sideline reporting is leaves a little bit to be desired.
Oh, come on now. You're a sideline analyst.
Yeah. That's exactly what I am, Pam.
That's what,
Give your girl a little boost.
You're special. Oslova now with 5 points, the freshman off the bench. Maryland 2 points away from 100. They have hit the 100-point mark several times this season. Maryland with 6 100-point games this season.
I knew it. I knew they may get a steal.
Hey, Reese, of course, going for it.
I'm sure Mount St. Mary's wanted to hang on to that one. They didn't want Maryland to hang 100 on them.
Maryland takes it 98-45. 5 Terps in double figures. Chloe Bibby had a double-double as Maryland takes it by the final of 98-45. Great effort by Rebecca.